This is HBR News number 483. Girl smashes patriarchy, girl most affected, when we discuss the news of the week and give it the Badger treatment. Hello everybody and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. I hope you guys are doing well this week and that you're laughing at all of this absurdity so that you are not consumed by it. My name is Brian, your host, and I'm joined by, as always, my lovely co-hosts, Hannah Wallen and Dr. Randerkamp. I always want to say Mike J, even though he hasn't been on the show in a long time. But it's just like, he's
here in spirit.
I'm trying to manifest him. So
he usually writes at least one of the stories.
Yeah, he does. He definitely contributes. And by the way, keep Mike J in your thoughts. He wasn't able to do a write-up this week for me because he had a death in the family. And so he's just, not around right now. And so keep him in your thoughts. But anyway, with all that out of the way, we're going to be having as good a show as we can this holiday season. We're going to be discussing the most recent shooting of a Christian school, which was kind of breaking news. It sort of got out yesterday, so I had to add it in the last minute. The things that we already knew about stuff like January 6th and the Duke Lacrosse case and more, so stick around. It's going to be a good time, if not predictable. And be sure to join us afterwards for the patron-only show. So with this story breaking that we're going to be talking about, I had to get rid of one of the stories I was going to put up, which was this fun story of ABC having to pay Trump $15 million for defamation because George Stephanopoulos, that small manlet there pictured next to Trump, defamed him by basically saying that he was a convicted sexual assault instigator, whatever, that he attacked E. Jean Carroll, who is a totally credible witness. And now it looks like justice might be served and he's going to have to ABC is going to be paying the price for that. So if you want to join us for that, consider it a bonus news story. Please consider becoming a Badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com and so /subscribe. $5 a month will get you into our Discord server and it'll allow you to watch all of the additional content that we make basically almost every single day. And it would be, I think it's a pretty good value, and the community is great and there's lots of stuff going on there, and Allison's very active, so you can hound her if you like and beak at her. So please consider doing that by going to feedthebadger.com /subscribe. And if you don't want to wake up one morning to find that our content has been yeeted from the internet because we are engaging in too much wrongthink, then please go to honeybadgerradio.com or badgerfeed.com. That's where all of our archived content lives. With all that out of the way, oh, and by the way, if you guys could, please hit the like button now. That would help us reach more people. The algorithm they're doing things at YouTube now where they have a team that's trying to boost small creators. And I would consider us to be a small creator, even though we're coming up on 10,000 subs, I think, which is great for this channel. But yeah, if you guys could hit like for us, that would be great so we can reach more people. It's especially effective if you're live at the time. So please consider doing that. All right. So with all that out of the way, let us now get into today's stories. So first, we got to talk about the elephant in the room. We are going to be looking at the shooting. So on December 16th, that would be yesterday, 2024. Also, by the way, December 16th is mine and Lindsay's anniversary. So if we had a small shindig. It's just her and I and the dog, but Anyway, on December 16, 2024, a tragic shooting occurred at Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, Wisconsin, leaving a teacher and a teenage student dead. The suspected shooter, identified as teenage student Natalie Lynn Rupnow, also perished, believed to have died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. 6 others, all students, were injured, with 2 in critical condition and 4 with non-life-threatening injuries. The shooting took place just before 11 a.m., with emergency services responding promptly to the scene. The Madison Police Department confirmed that the incident was confined to one area of the school, though the specific location within the building was not disclosed. In the aftermath, the school community was deeply affected, with immediate efforts made to reunite students with their families at a designated clinic. Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers expressed his condolences and ordered flags to be flown at half-staff until December 22nd. President Joe Biden was briefed on the incident, and there were calls for legislative changes to address gun violence in schools, which, by the way, comes up with this incident, but did not come up with the Luigi Mangione incident, because that was a good kind of shooting death. But anyway, the investigation into the shooting is ongoing, with police examining the motive and the origins of the firearm used. Madison Police Chief Sean Barnes was highlighted in the community's shock and grief, noting the significant trauma that such an event causes, which lasts well beyond the immediate crisis. Based on information available on social media, there are claims that the shooter of the Abundant Life Christian School incident left behind a manifesto. Some posts on X suggest that excerpts from this manifesto were shared, with one user stating that the manifesto was allegedly sent to the suspect's boyfriend via WhatsApp. However, the details about the content of the manifesto are varied and not consistently confirmed. One post claimed the manifesto expressed hatred towards the world, while another suggested political motivations, labeling the shooter as a radical leftist. I'm going to show, and we're going to look at some of the evidence that Andy No put out. Andy No was basically the guy who broke the story, and he basically has, from what I can tell so far, the most accurate information. These posts do not provide conclusive evidence about the manifesto's authenticity or content, as social media can often be a source of misinformation or speculation, of which I was a victim once, or I was a victim of that, because there was a lot of chatter about this being a trans shooter, and I kind of got swept up in that because it looked like it made sense. Well, when I thought a trans shooter, I was thinking a trans man. I'm not a trans woman, but a trans man, because of what happened in, I think it was Tennessee, or Kentucky. I think it was Tennessee. But anyway, official investigations have not yet publicly confirmed the existence or details of any manifesto. Therefore, the information currently available should be treated as inconclusive. We'll just take it with a grain of salt until we verify it completely. So this is what I thought was interesting about this. What it sounds like, and again, there is going to have to be some degree of speculation, is that this person, Natalie Lynn Rupnow, is a femcel, radical, feminist, misandrist, okay? And I'm going to show some of the stuff here. This is a bit blurry. I think this is the post shared, I think it was on Discord or something, and this is from someone named Nitro Petrograd. It says, women are the only hope for this wretched world, but even women have been brainwashed by moids, that is like foids for incels. I guess moids is the femcel version. For too long, they've internalized the patriarchy and turned on each other, always begging for male approval and validation. It's disgusting. I realize the truth. Men are irredeemable. Radfem Hitler is fucking vindicated now. They can't be reformed or redeemed. They're a fucking scourge upon the earth. The only solution is to total exterminate them. I guess totally exterminate them, and every foid who worships these fucking parasites. Every single male must be wiped out, from babies to the elderly. Only then can women be free to create a new world. I'll be a pioneer. I'll be the first to take the first step. I don't care if they're fathers, brothers, husbands, sons, teachers, police, and especially N-words or politician. I've been craving to kill them all. This is my mission. Only when their parasitic sludge has been expunged from the earth is when then the world will be clean and women can start over. It's the only way. In approximately 10 minutes, Sai should be dead, or maybe I should be dead. It's strange, but it feels good. And who is this Radfem Hitler? I thought I would share this because it's kind of relevant. So Radfem Hitler is, I guess, a relatively well-known, super radical feminist on X, and this is her one of her posts, and I'll read this real quick too, just so you know that's who she was saying got it right. This is also coming out of a very radical feminist Reddit. I think it's called we've talked about it actually. It was like the femcel Reddit that I can't remember the name of. But anyway, so here's what radical feminist Radfem Hitler says. Golden retriever men, goofballs, criminals, and artists. What do they all have in common? Energy. Men are largely stingy with energy. To them, nothing is really worth doing. They simply refuse to exist on this plane. The average human male walks around as if having to breathe is a chore he has been unfairly tasked with, his underdeveloped Y chromosome having left him with a lack of connection to life. This is why they would rather live in filth than lift a finger to pick up after themselves. Why only a man could conceive of something as horrifying as the Goon Cave. Most of them teeter on the precipice of suicidal ideation, with the promise of possible ejaculation being the only thing holding them back from the edge. You can smell how much a man resents being here, how much he longs for the pre-consciousness slumber of the spirit womb. And this feature, which most men have due to their poor karma that has resulted in them being born male, is the most fundamental thing that women find unattractive in men. Not being bald, not being fat, not being weird, not being poor. It is the lack of life force that is so unshakably repulsive to women. It is a glaring flaw in the foundation of your very being. And then it goes on from there. And this Rad Femme Hitler person, when this shooting came out, and it's a woman, she was named, she closed her X account. But meanwhile, while some people on X were incorrectly presuming this person was trans, which again, I made that mistake too, but I changed it. That's why the title is different from it if you saw it yesterday. Blue Sky believed that she was MAGA. And said, oh, the school shooter was a 17-year-old female racist? This tracks. Another vile MAGA. Did the parents give her a gun? So you'll find that on X, there are people that, and again, I think the record's been corrected. A lot of people have done just that. Andy No being one of them. But let's see what's developed in the last 24 hours. Because I
want to point out, Andy No cited another user who is also a journalist for his access to the manifesto, which I downloaded onto my laptop, and it is out in my van instead of in here.
Oh,
but
really?
It's still up on her account. And I mean, I read it. This girl was fucked up, right? This is not a obviously the feminist influence on her being fucked up had an impact on her decision, especially if she shot at more male targets than female. But she was obsessed with school shooters.
Yeah.
And this is a problem of lack of parental supervision. She was 15. She was not 17. She was not MAGA. The liberal misconception of her being MAGA was entirely based on the liberal lie that being MAGA makes you racist. And so she said something racist, which may have just been edgy shit, and it may have been a real belief. They decided that made her MAGA, and it made her right wing, and like they lump all that stuff in together because the media has used allegations of the isms and the phobias to demonize people who just don't want to be taxed to fund people's stupid lifestyle choices, and it has nothing to do with skin color, right? This chick spent time poring over profiles of school shooters. If my kid had done that, I would have known because the computer that he used was in the living room with the screen facing where I could see it. Right? None of my kids had internet access that was private where my husband and me couldn't see what they were doing and who they were talking to and who was influencing them the whole time they were underage, right up until 18 years old. And the reason for that is because you can take a teenage mind and you can warp it like this, and you can cause somebody to make the dumbest decisions. You can cause somebody to be filled with hatred, and you can cause somebody to do harm to themselves and other people. As a teenager, as a young person, an individual is much more gullible and much less well defended from within against stupid shit like this. And it is a parent's responsibility to be aware of that and to be the protector. And just because, like, I know students use the internet for school. I know they're going to go to school. A lot of students have peers that influence them at school that their parents don't necessarily know about, because kids won't always tell you everything. But to be able to pore over profiles of school shooters and obsess over them, and to be so obsessed over them that you idolize them, and have your parents just be blindsided enough that they bought you the gun that you used to do the shooting. There is a neglect taking place in that house. And that's a primary concern, right?
Well, yeah, she was a terminally online girl, and her parents were not involved in her life. Basically,
not enough anyway.
No, not enough.
And this isn't rocket science, okay? If you aren't going to raise your children, don't have children. If you're going to have children you're not going to raise, don't retain custody of them after they're born. You know, that's a really simple thing to say. It's a really simple thing to do. Especially now. Anybody born after all of the different forms of birth control came out for women, anyone born in the 80s and the 90s, that was a choice. Parents chose to bring someone into the world. If they're going to choose to bring someone into the world, support the start of their lives, for crying out loud. Because you might not just be harming your own child. You might be harming the greater community. Right? And I think a lot of this comes from, in the last 30 years, there's been a concerted attack on parenthood by government, by the left, by feminists specifically, and in particular on fatherhood. You think I made the internet rules in our house? This was something my husband started. Mm-hmm. You know, and immediately, as soon as he said it, I understood why he was right, and he had my full support. But the idea that the kids couldn't just get online and do whatever without us knowing that they needed some kind of privacy online, he put the kibosh to that before it was even brought up, because he was going to protect his kids. Right? And there are a lot of households where it is dad that puts the foot down, because dad figures out this is a whole world you're exposing a child to with no supervision. Be like letting your kid go to New York City unsupervised. It's funny in the movies, but not so much in real life. And you know, feminism's attack on men, feminism's attack on fathers, I would put the blame for this happening squarely on feminism. Yeah. Because feminism has been the power, the social influence, the legislative influence, and the consequence that has affected the most families, that created an environment in which fathers were not allowed to parent their daughters and not allowed to protect their sons and daughters from making stupid mistakes because of things that they got obsessed with on the internet.
Mm-hmm. And that's with or without the manifesto. We're supposed to sort of dance around what we may or may have not been told about the manifesto, and it's kind of weird that we're getting all this apparently salient information from an alleged manifesto, allegedly sent to the Radfem killer's alleged boyfriend. And I'm like, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right. I know it's not unheard of for a kill all men kind of Radfem to have a boyfriend, just like the starter pack for a white men are the scourge of the earth kind of female politician is a white husband. But it does kind of smell funny in this case. Like the boyfriend in question, he thinks he's her boyfriend, but all they did was make out once, and now this is some kind of revenge porn or revenge murderous communism. It's like we've found ourselves embroiled in a teenage girl's diary and the mundane teenage drama surrounding it. Something that happens a million times every day, and apparently it can lead to mass murder. There's going to be a compelling Netflix series about this in less than 6 months. Fucking
Starring
timestamp-
Sydney Sweeney or something.
Yeah, timestamp that joke right now, because
And it's gonna make her out to be the victim.
Of course.
Yeah, it's all
It's going to be on Netflix.
It's all too tempting to point at this case and notice the femininity, to group it together with Audrey Hale, the Nashville shooter, and perhaps Nassim Najafi Agdam. No, you've all forgotten, haven't you? The YouTube shooter from 2018. Remember?
Oh, the one that, yeah, sure, I know her.
Yeah. Proper memory hold in the general whole of memory.
Of course.
That one. But yeah, it's tempting to see this as an accelerating pattern and go, see, this is what feminism does to girls. But it would be duplicitous not to notice that the majority of mass shooters are still male and have been for some time. And what one wouldn't wish to default to the same hypocrisy we can expect from feminists. She did it because she's a victim of the patriarchy. He did it because he is the patriarchy, and so on and so forth. But let us not forget, feminism demonstrably exists. The patriarchy of feminist imaginings does not. Nobody is taught to submit to the patriarchy, but countless millions are indeed taught to submit to feminism, and not for the sake of cohesion, but for the lack of it. So yes, to repeat myself for perhaps the millionth time, feminism, just like any other flavor of oikophobic leftism, exists only to divide us, to granulize us, to atomize us, until there's nothing left but the ashes over which this tyrant can rule. Yes, it turns boys into murderers because it tells them they're subhuman. Yes, it turns girls into murderers because it tells them they are eternal victims of the subhumans. It just happened to take effect with the boys first, which makes sense. You know, when women want to lash out at the world, they tend to use men as their weapons. When men want to lash out at the world, they have to settle for actual weapons. But it seems we're at the point where the girls are finally catching up, ladies and gentlemen. They're finally studying as hard as the boys after a 25-year gap in the curriculum. Oh, well, that's the IQ curve in a nutshell. Welcome, ladies. Welcome to the advanced effects of the Marxist demoralization program. Welcome to hating yourself and wanting to die. It can be grim down here, not gonna lie, but you can get by if you have discipline, if you know the tricks of the trade, if you can allow your soul to slightly leave your body, like not all the way, just so it's hanging on by the skull. You can enjoy the tranquility of realizing that you're completely fucked and no one is coming to save you. You're on your own. It's an important life lesson, a life lesson that males learn from a very early age. Don't overreact to it. There's no need to start shooting people. It's fine. Just, like I say, leave your body and then notice how insane the world below you really is. And laugh. Just laugh at it. Yeah. Yes, we're fucked. Yes, we're all going to die. It's going to be horrible. And it doesn't even matter whose fault it is. At the end of the day, all you can do is laugh. If you can laugh, you can spit in the eye of suffering. You can tweak the nose of pain and despair. If if I can stay funny, I can stay alive. So, but yeah, to summarize, the feminists did this. Feminists are responsible for this. I'm just going to say it. And I'm going to refuse to elaborate. Kick them out. Lock them up.
I will.
Throw away the key. Bollocks to you.
Feminists
I can say what I
created
like.
the conditions that led to this.
Yeah.
There were multiple conditions that feminists influenced and created that contributed to this. That this wouldn't have happened if those conditions had not been a problem.
Yeah, I'm glad to be in a country where I can say this without getting arrested. So yeah, God bless America, and I really hope one of those drones doesn't drop a nuke on me or whatever. Merry Christmas, everyone! Don't kill people and all that.
Please don't. I was just saying about the YouTube killer. You know why people don't remember her name? Because her KD ratio was awful. But anyway,
I also want to point out. I'm going to plug our blog here. I wrote about the issue of female serial killers after Anita Sarkeesian made a statement publicly that all serial killers, or 98% of school shooters, was male, and she cited her own. Not her own. It was a feminist not feminist frequently, or feminist frequency article. But she made this claim, cited this article, and I went and read the article. And the first thing I discovered is that the claim that mass shooters or school shooters are overwhelmingly male is based on conflating actual somebody goes into a school and starts shootings with any time a crime occurs where the individual who committed the crime runs onto school grounds at any point during the day, including at night, and there's shooting between that individual and the police. If shooting takes place, even if nobody's hit by any bullets, it's considered a school shooting in that article. And then also mass shootings that had that didn't come anywhere near a school.
Mm-hmm.
So the article is called because of the way Sarkeesian pounced on it before details had even come out, and how gleeful she was posting about it, and how angry I was about that because of my own experience with how I got that information while my son was at school, and while it sounded like it was a local event and not somewhere else. I titled it Murdergasm, Sarkeesian's Gleeful Attention Grab. So if you look for that title on the honeybadgerbrigade.com website, you will find an article that describes the actions of several female shooters. And more information is given. There's links in the article to explain a bit more about female mass murderers and female school shooters. The fact that these same issues affect female mass shooters and school shooters as male. And it's just that when those issues come up in their cases, they become the focus rather than the violence becoming the focus. Society will look for any reason to tolerate the actions of a violent woman. And they will look for any reason to use any crime to demonize a man or a boy.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. I'm gonna read your super chats and stuff, and then we'll move on. So I got a super chat from J.O. Bales for $1.99, and he said, "First was Brenda Spencer, Cleveland, 1976. I hate Mondays." Yep. Yeah, it was.
She said, I don't like Mondays, but
I don't like Mondays.
It was a flippant remark. She was this girl's fucked up. She was fucked up in a whole different way, and in her situation, it was abuse at home, at least according to everything that came out afterward. And So that was a situation in which she had no recourse actually against a bad father.
Mm-hmm.
But she's come out since and said she regrets what she did and at least acknowledges that it was wrong, that it was her fault, and she somewhat takes blame for every school shooting that happened afterward, because she said she's always afraid that they were inspired by what she did.
Mm-hmm.
So there's
I
at least that. It would be nice if women could at least be that accountable in general.
yeah.
It's pretty bad that the one example that we have for this story is a school shooter.
Yeah. All right, and then I got a Rumble rant from Nova Fan. He says, "Take note on which women claim to not be feminist but still feel bad for the school shooter woman. Notice how differently they respond when it was a man." That was for $1. Thank you, Nova Fan. Remember, this is a teenage girl, though. So not it's not excusing what she did. Obviously, she took her own life too, but she was definitely someone that did not have a support network like the boys that ended up doing these similar acts, and I'm gonna try to treat them the same. But like Hannah said, feminism is responsible for this happening, like in the short and long term. This is what is encouraged. What she's doing is essentially, I thought of Valerie Solanas when I saw this story and learned that it was a woman. And again, just to clarify, even when I thought, when I heard she was trans, which is a mistake, I thought she was a trans man, not a trans woman. So it's not like blaming men at the end of the day. If she was a trans man, I would still be blaming the woman because she's biologically female. So it wouldn't change that. But anyway,
Well, something that people need to understand, when we talk about feminism causing school shootings, like I said before, a large part of that is feminists' attack on parents and parenthood, and in particular, fatherhood. They also attack
yeah.
motherhood. They attack the parents being the primary caregivers and guides for children, disciplinarians, educators, everything the parents do, and not the state. But they primarily attack fathers. They try to get fathers out of the home so mothers will replace them with the state. And that crime is the primary reason why has been an uptick in underage violence in our country.
Mm-hmm.
Taking fathers out of the home causes teenage violence.
There you go. All right,
It's
and also
directly related.
she did make a reference to Radfem Hitler, who made a reference to Valerie Solanas. That's why I thought about it, because now I remember Radfem Hitler, who is a woman. I think that you may have had run-ins with her on Twitter before she left.
Probably.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, very, very radical. And also, by the way, this is the thing I wanted to say about the her racist remarks or whatever about black men. That's not unique. Obviously, not unique to like any particular political side of the aisle. But I'm like, when I was talking to Lindsay about it, and I dropped that, we were like, "Oh shit, she's going retro feminism. She's going old school. Margaret Sanger feminism. Like this is old. This is like a throwback."
Yeah,
So
but you know
look,
what?
the thing is that when they bring feminists just hate men, okay,
Yeah, I
or
was gonna
when
say
they so
all
all
racism
men,
is just thinly disguised
yes,
misandry.
exactly,
There is
all
no real racism. It's all just
exactly,
thinly
it's all
disguised
just misandry
misandry.
because it's generally targeted at men of a foreign group, and that's why, like, for example, I think there was one of the groups that a Radfem was talking about. She was talking about all these incidents involving like sexual assaults in like Europe, right, by like migrant guys from like Africa and the Middle East and stuff. And look, that's happening for sure. But the way that they're framing it is they're framing it as a male problem because they don't want to be called racist for saying it's like a product of these cultures that are just not compatible, and that we should not have imported these people. But they're framing it as a male problem because it's like how they hide. Like if they just hate men, nobody takes an issue with that, so they can use it to hide their bigotry. And that's why it's something that we have to kind of let's say, unravel so that it doesn't have that, that's a protective shield they can use. Like, oh no, it's not because they're brown, it's because they're men. And then people go, oh yeah, sure, that makes sense. So anyway, thank you for that. I got a super chow from Meredith G, who gives us $5 and says, HBR News number 483, an idle mind is the devil's playground. Just an observation that the ideology of feminism originates with privileged, purposeless women. That is what makes it a cancer, because the world they created strips other people of purpose, and in seeking purpose, they find hateful ideology that tells them their purpose is to get famous through destruction. It's not surprising it's creating male and female mass shooters. Yes. And ultimately, even though, like, I saw this, the Lotus Eaters covered this briefly, and there was a bit of a cope thing going on where I think it was like the Greek guy, I can't remember his name, but he was trying to say, oh, I don't think it's misandry, I think it's misanthropy, because she was saying that she hated men and women. But I think that it's important for us to drill down that misandry eventually leads to misanthropy anyway, but it is misandry at its core. Like, that's where it started from, because she essentially hates women who don't hate men. So that's and of course, in the long run, you are destroying your whole society if you're only attacking one gender or one sex. I'm not going to say gender. And that's the sex is men, because it's the one that we are permitted to hate and destroy. And so she's just doing that. And yeah, she's inevitably going to hate women. She probably hated herself, but that doesn't change the fact that this was a misandrist. There was a misandrist, let's say, objective or feeling underpinning her actions and her intentions. And it's okay. We should be talking about this. And of course, nobody wants to talk about misandry. It's just they can't do it, even if it involves children, which in this case it did. So anyway, let us know.
A good way to explain it is most misanthropy is rooted in misandry. Yeah, or misandry. I've had people say that we're pronouncing it wrong. Doesn't matter if you understand what we're saying, but in any case, it's definitely rooted in hatred of men.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, anyway, let us know what you guys think about this story in the comments. Thank you for your comments and whatnot. Let us move on to the next story. So, in a turn that probably shouldn't shock anyone at all, it has been discovered by the Department of Justice Inspector General Michael Horowitz, revealed that the FBI had 26 confidential human sources, informants, present in Washington, D.C. during the events of January 6, 2021 at the U.S. Capitol. According to this report, only 3 of these informants were specifically tasked by the FBI to attend the event to gather intelligence on potential domestic terrorism subjects. The remaining 23 were there on their own initiative, not directed by the FBI. The report confirmed that no undercover FBI agents were at the Capitol or protests that day, directly contradicting conspiracy theories suggesting FBI involvement in instigating the riot. However, the presence of these informants, especially those who entered restricted areas of the Capitol, has fueled further debate regarding the FBI's role and narrative surrounding the events of January 6th.
Do you think history will ever be able to churn up a realistic account of January 6th? I worry about these things, even though they happen at a scale far greater than my own lifespan. Yes, it's all well and good that hundreds of people are in jail without trial just for walking through public property with no barriers. Yes, the number one priority should be freeing those political prisoners and apologizing profusely on behalf of the US government and the Biden cartel that usurped it. I'm no longer calling it the Biden regime. It was never the Biden administration, but in retrospect, it wasn't even the Biden regime. It was the Biden cartel. The Biden cartel is not led by Joe Biden, by the way. At best, he's third in command to the Obamas and the Clintons, and God knows where it goes beyond there. And at this point, I'm only 52% sure that the Biden cartel is going to start World War III just to stay in power. I don't think this is unreasonable, given the colossus of lies they have already deployed. But yeah, in my weird temporally warped brain, I'm less interested in the present and more concerned about how history is going to try to explain this. How future historians can possibly explain this, because they'll have to trawl through thousands of hours of broadcast news media and conclude that they were all lying. 1,000 different channels across cultures and countries and continents, and they were all telling the same lie? How is this even possible? Oh, you poor dear you. You poor sweet summer child, you. Oh, oblivious denizen of the future. Yes, lies are in fact trivially easy to spread, especially when an oligarchy of self-interested shysters are in charge of an international network of information technology. The Summer of Love 2020 was not a peaceful protest. It was, in fact, an insurrection which successfully insurrected an area of Seattle, among many others. They annexed a region of a major city and prevented the police from entering it. The events at the Capitol on January 6th, 2021 were not an insurrection. It was, in fact, a peaceful protest against a stolen election. They didn't annex the building. They didn't even bring any weapons. They didn't prevent the police from entering that building. On the contrary, they were invited into the building by the police. Like, I don't know how historians are going to illustrate this. It's an unconvincing villain. Wait, are you telling me that the Biden cartel tried to get the Capitol building terrorized? Yes, it's a cartel, my dude. That's exactly the kind of thing cartels do. I know this is difficult. And yeah, I have a horrible feeling. 50 years from now, school children will still be being taught about the great insurrection of 2021. Like, all trace of the truth will be gone. And that makes me wonder how much of the history we've been taught to this day is the same kind of bullshit. Like, the storming of the Bastille was just... You were just freeing murderers and nonces, weren't you? That's... To this very day, we're freeing murderers and nonces while we lock up people who complain about the murderers and the nonces. This is a call to all my pastoral resignations. No, this is a call to all who would record this rant of mine and save it for posterity. You do more than you know by doing so. Please try and remember. Humanity, like any other species, is like a worm tunneling itself through cause and effect. And the only way it can win in the survival of the fittest is to remember the victories and to remember the failures. So this is a call from 2024 in the desperate hope that it can be differentiated from the AI recreations that no doubt will exist in the far future. Hello from 2024. January 6th was not an insurrection. It was a peaceful protest against a rigged election. Message ends. My God, it's full of stars.
You know that there was one area where the tourists and protesters did not get to go on January 6th. Because remember, they were guided around by security. They didn't just go anywhere they wanted to go without being allowed to go in there. Aside from those that tried to break the windows and doors to get into one particular area. But there was one area that has been closed to the public that was open to the public until 1983. Old timers are going, oh, I know what you're gonna mention. 1983, huh? So for the whippersnappers, in 1983, let's see, I believe November 7th was the actual date, because I actually have an article up about this just to make sure I have the names right and stuff. But in 1983, there was a bombing at the U.S. Capitol's Senate wing. A bombing that
That's not
involved
the
a conspiracy.
weather underground, was it? Because
They referred to themselves as the Resistance Conspiracy. Rather, Weather Underground was, if I remember right,
in
a
the
courtroom
70s.
bombing.
Yeah. Okay.
So it took 5 years to get through the investigation, but there was $250,000 done in damage done. I'm going to actually read from some of this. All right. Minutes before the bomb went off, a caller claiming to represent the quote armed resistance unit warned a Capitol switchboard operator that a bomb had been placed near the chamber, purportedly in retaliation for the recent U.S. military actions in Grenada and Lebanon. The force of the device, hidden under the bench outside the Senate chamber, blew the hinges off the door to the office of Senator Robert Byrd, Democrat, West Virginia, the minority leader at the time. Also damaged 5 paintings, particularly a stately portrait of Massachusetts Senator Daniel Webster. The blast tore away Webster's face and left it scattered across the floor tiles in 1-inch canvas shards. Senate officials recovered the fragments from debris-filled trash bins. Over the coming months, a conservator painstakingly restored the painting to a credible, if somewhat diminished, version of the original. The blast also punched a hole in a partition that sent a shower of pulverized brick, plaster, and glass into the Republican cloakroom behind the chamber. Although the explosion caused no structural damage to the Capitol, it shattered mirrors, chandeliers, and furniture. Officials placed the damage at $250,000. Right. In May 1988, FBI agents arrested 7 members of the resistance conspiracy after 5-year investigation. Marilyn Jean Buck, Linda Sue Evans, probably one of the few names that our generation remembers from this, Susan Rosenberg, Timothy Blunk, Alan Berkman, Laura Whitehorn, and Elizabeth Ann Duke. I wonder how many people will notice a specific thing about that group. They were charged with executing the Capitol bombing as well as triggering blasts at Fort McNair and the Washington Navy Yard. On December 7th, 1990, U.S. District Court Judge Harold H. Green sentenced Whitehorn and Evans to lengthy prison terms for conspiracy and malicious destruction of government property. Green dropped the charges against 3 co-defendants because they were already serving extended prison sentences for related terrorist crimes. They may have been part of Weather Underground. Whitehorn was sentenced to 20 years, Evans to 5 years to be served concurrently with 35 years for having illegally bought guns. On August 6, 1999, Whitehorn was released on parole after serving just over 14 years. On January 20th, 2001, his final day in office, President Bill Clinton commuted Evans' sentence to time served. He pardoned her.
I do remember the pardoning. I do remember that. Yeah. Okay. Hannah,
So
you still there?
this woman she could have killed people. This was actual violence. This was an actual act of insurrection.
Yep.
Right? And Democrat President Bill Clinton pardoned the insurrectionist that was still incarcerated from a group that engaged in multiple terrorist acts, may have been part of other terrorist groups. Members may have been part of other terrorist groups. So just for shits and giggles, did anybody notice the thing that I noticed about that group of people?
I'm afraid to say, but you go ahead. You tell me.
Almost all of them were women,
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to
Marilyn Jean
say.
Buck, Linda Sue Evans, Sue Rosenberg, Laura Whitehorn, Elizabeth Ann Duke, and 2 dudes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe it. What else were you going to say about Hannah?
I
You
just
still there?
wanted to point out, here we
Yeah.
are discussing the so-called insurrection. We should start calling it the Velvet Rope Insurrection, just to mock them.
Mm-hmm.
Because the video of people wandering around the Capitol between the velvet ropes set up to tell tourists where they were allowed to go versus this violent bombing that, had they not warned people, could have affected actual human beings, could have killed people, could have severely injured people even if they weren't killed, did destroy priceless artwork that can't be reproduced, did destroy parts of the building, parts of the decor in the building, did cost taxpayers $250,000 in 1983 money.
Yeah.
Right? That led to, oh, this poor woman, she shouldn't be kept in jail for the rest of her life or however long because she did this terrible thing. But just walking between the velvet ropes on January 6th to have a word about the election, to express doubts, right? Pressing X. That's an insurrection.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
come
for
on.
sure.
What are we supposed
Sure.
to believe here?
Well, I mean, it was a trap. Some people fell for it. They used it, but hopefully, I mean,
But
we're
it was
not.
also like it may have been a trap, but to be fair, it didn't spring, and they had to pretend
No,
that it had
yeah,
sprung.
they had to, exactly. I mean, they were trying to create a situation where they could exploit it, and I think that the people that were there were still well behaved,
Right.
all
And
things
the
considered.
pretense
Yeah,
that people engaged in something unprecedented and unforgivable and worse than 9/11 and blah blah blah, that really is contradicted by the history.
for sure, 100%. But I
If
mean,
blowing up part of the Capitol is pardonable, then it's beyond reprehensible to say that walking between the velvet ropes is not.
for sure. Well, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. I'm going to read your super chats and we're going to move on. So Ben gave us $9.99. Thank you, Ben. And he says, she was a victim of the patriarchy. It's still men's fault. But also, we are all equal and men are victims of the patriarchy too. But men aren't victims when they are the shooters. Make it make sense. Thank you, Ben. Yes, question for the ages. Question for the Dalai Lama, and I don't even think he can answer it. But anyway, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. Again, this is news that I already knew was true, that there were lots of feds there, and I imagine there are more than even the number that they are claiming, and they just had to kind of admit at least this much. But I'm guessing there's more, and I'm guessing that they were also much more involved in manipulation. And despite all of that, they had to turn the media into overdrive mode to propagandize the public into thinking that this was a lot worse than it actually was. And sadly, I know people who believe the lies. They believe the narrative. So I can't change their minds. They're just going to have to experience pain. Anyway, let us know what you guys think about that one in the comments. I'm going to move on to the next story. In other news of things that we already knew, 18 years later, Crystal Magnum, the woman who accused the 3 Duke University lacrosse players of rape in 2006, has publicly admitted that she lied about the encounter. What? In an interview on the web show Let's Talk with Kat, Magnum confessed that she, quote, testified falsely against them by saying that they raped me when they didn't, and that was wrong, end quote. You know that it's wrong to lie, guys? It's wrong, and she's admitted it. She acknowledged betraying the trust of those who believed her, admitting that she made up the story because she wanted validation from people rather than from God. Okay. This admission comes nearly 2 decades after the initial accusations, which had significant repercussions, including the cancellation of the team's 2006 season, the resignation of the coach, and the disbarment of the prosecuting attorney Mike Nifong. Magnum is currently serving time in prison for a 2013 second-degree murder conviction unrelated to the Lacrosse case. So she did go on to kill somebody after that. But guys, believe women. This, by the way, is where the believe women hashtag came from. It spawned from this story, which we talked about looked fishy even back then. And she didn't admit to it
this
until
was
now.
before us. This story happened before us, but we have talked about it.
But we talked about the
once.
case, yeah.
But here's the thing. It doesn't really matter if she's admitting it now. Everybody already knew. We knew when it happened. There were so many holes in the case when it happened. We, the public, knew when it happened. The prosecutor in that case had to resign because in order to make a case for even prosecuting those guys, he had to suppress exculpatory evidence. That was one of the first cases, I think, that normies within the public really became aware in the moment as it was happening that the narrative the news media was putting forward on that case was bullshit, right? They came out with all this believe woman shit. They came out with all this they're calling her a prostitute because they're racist. Well, no, actually she was a prostitute. They hired her to be there.
Literally a prostitute.
Yeah,
Stripper.
literally a prostitute.
Literally.
Which, her skin color doesn't determine whether or not that's true. Right? There are prostitutes from there's not a demographic of women, there's not a racial demographic of women that doesn't include some women that choose prostitution over other work. Right? That's just the way it is.
Albatross said,
right?
What kind of name is Crystal Magnum? Yeah, a stripper name. That's what kind.
Yeah, it's a stripper name. That's right. That's a stripper name.
that's literally what she is. Okay?
It might actually be her real name.
I mean, it could be.
Into women with
maybe
real
it'd be
names
Cristal.
that
Cristal Magnum. Yeah.
I'm gonna be blunt. The chick that attacked me in 2019, her legal name is a stripper name. I'm not kidding you.
Mercedes?
When I no, and I'm not gonna say what it is.
Okay. Don't say what it is.
I had to drop the
What are some
charges
stripper
against her
names,
in order
guys,
to
in the
get
chat?
that,
Give us some stripper names.
In any case, the point that I'm gonna make here is it doesn't matter, right? Being sorry this many years later and this much damage later, I'm fine. You can be sorry all you like. Fuck you very much for waiting so long. It took her this long. It took her a decade plus to admit that she lied about something that literally everybody else already was aware that she lied about. Like she knew at this point she wasn't fooling anybody. She knew by the time she killed someone that she wasn't fooling anybody. So for her to come out now and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I lied." Like that's not contrition. That's an attention grab. And it worked because now we're talking about her.
Mike, you're muted. I don't know if you wanted to say anything about this.
Hey, guys! Remember that time? Remember that one time, yeah? When I personally directed a mob, a criminal cartel, to kidnap a dozen men and psychologically and legally torture them, like, for no reason? Remember how you all knew it was for no reason? Well, yeah, it was, in fact, for no reason. I hereby confess to this. Am I under arrest? No, you're fine. Just don't do it again, please. Okay. You see what it's like a Middle Eastern dictator. If a Middle Eastern dictator did this, especially in an oil-rich country, the U.S. government would hunt him down to the bottom of his foxhole and shoot him in his scraggly bearded face. But it turns out if any given woman confesses to having weaponized the armed forces to kidnap innocent men on a whim, apparently it's fine. It just goes to show you, if you want to get away with cruel and unusual war crimes, just put a marginalized woman in charge of the Department of State-sponsored kidnapping, whatever it is you call that thing that every country has. And as if by magic, you can throw whoever the hell you like in a jail cell and through several years of legal hell. Please take heed, ladies and gentlemen, if this is what a woman can get away with when she's just a rando, just a deluded, paranoid narcissist in an unremarkable sorority, imagine what she can get away with when she's the president or just a vice president in the event of the president being an invalid. This is still the case, by the way. These people are still ostensibly in charge. In theory, you'll have a new president in 1 month, but in the meantime, here, let me slip you one more black pill. You are, of course, fucked, and no one's coming to save you. That might not even be true, but you need to keep it in mind nevertheless, because that's how you beat the Grim Reaper at long range. I will, of course, drink to that.
It's good to use the boomerang crosses. They're really effective on the Grim Reaper. All right, so I got a super chat, and then we're gonna move on to the last story. We're on good time, guys. It's pretty good. Ben gave us $1.99 and says, "This has been a bad week for women." Thank you for that. And I see people are giving us stripper names. I happen to like Candy Crusher, and somebody said Stretch and Gretchen. So anyway, let's move on to the next story. Thanks for the your contributions. Okay, last story. This one's just kind of for fun. I'm probably not going to say much about it, but I think it's funny. Oh, I did get another Rumble rant from NovaFan21. Gave us $1 and says, if she was really sorry, she'll go to each organization that pushed the lie and or excluded those men from any job opportunity. The lies prevented them from achieving. Yeah, no, it ruined those guys' lives. I mean, they had to live under that for a long time. I don't know if they're going to be able to bounce back even after she made these confessions, because, you know, even when, like, women, like, what was it, the Roe v. Wade, the whole thing with Roe v. Wade was based on a lie. And we had to live with that forever. And now that, like, we've overturned it, like, the women will not let it rest. Like, they're just obsessed with Roe v. Wade, even though it's based on a lie. And even though the woman herself came out and basically said, I lied about all of that, it doesn't matter. Like, it's just, we just have to deal with it now because I guess a woman said it. Therefore, it still has tremendous credibility somehow, even though we know it's a lie. So, I don't think the damage of this is going to be reversed very anytime soon.
The thing about that damage is that a lot of what took place was early career damage, right? These guys were in university. They were in university training for whatever jobs they were going to go for when they got out of university, and their reputations were damaged irreparably by these lies during the time when they were most likely to be seeking employment, when they were most likely to be networking in their professions, and during the time when they were trying to do the work to get through graduation. You know, so it's you can't go back and undo the damage the stress did. You can't go back and undo some employer deciding to pass this individual over because he was the target of a false allegation already once, and that would make him more likely a human resources risk, right? You can't go back and undo any of that. You can't go back and undo the hit to the confidence. You can't go back and undo the pain and suffering. You can't go back and undo any of the damage that affected the trajectory of their lives after that damage happened. So you can't undo the trajectory that it put them on. It's too late.
Yep.
You can't pay for the broken window. They don't make that window anymore.
Yep. Thank you for the Rumble Rant Nova fan. All right. So, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has remarked that Kamala Harris's loss in the U.S. presidential election was a setback for women's progress. At an Equal Voice Foundation event in Ottawa, Trudeau highlighted what he saw as regressive forces attacking women's rights, citing Harris's defeat as an example. His comments sparked a backlash from some Canadian premiers who deemed him not helpful, while on social media reactions varied. One post noted Trudeau's comments as potentially humiliating, especially given his interactions with, upcoming President Donald Trump. Another post criticized Trudeau's understanding of women's issues based on his personal and professional conduct, because Trudeau's faced allegations from feminists himself, and also he keeps going on and on about how there should be women in power, but refuses to step down and put a woman in that seat. So there is also that. The sentiment on X reflected a broader political discourse in Canada, where Trudeau's leadership, especially in light of international relations and domestic policy, and the debanking of truckers and whatnot, has been seen as contentious. This incident occurred against the backdrop of discussions about Canada's economic policies and the upcoming political landscape post-Harris election loss. So,
that dipshit that you had in your class at school, that every time the teacher would say, if you don't stop doing activity X that was a misbehavior, I'm gonna keep the whole class in at recess, and he had to do it one more time. That's Justin Trudeau, right? And now he's all grown up, and the public has told the leadership that if you don't stop pulling this dipshit woke baloney, we are going to get rid of you through our voting systems one at a time as it comes up. And clearly in the United States, that has resulted in an anti-woke, anti-establishment political takeover here, right? Make no mistake, the woke didn't just lose the presidency in this election. They lost the culture. These guys know it, and Trudeau decided he had to have one last stupid little rebellion, and it's pathetic that at his age, as the leader of a nation that has at least a little influence in the world, right? That he still pulls that shit. That he is still that kid in the classroom that has to do it one more time and then gets all the other kids in trouble and then doesn't understand why his classmates beat him up at recess.
he's a theater kid. Wasn't he like a part-time swim instructor? Do Canadians swim? I don't know.
Yeah,
and a drama teacher, substitute drama teacher. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
substitute drama teacher and swim instructor.
Bad enough to be a drama teacher, but to be a substitute drama teacher.
I know. What does that even mean? Like, anyway, I just thought it was really funny because it just shows.
This must be the substitute drama.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I'm going to keep saying loud and clearly that I am a feminist.
He still says that.
I want
he
him
still
to
says that.
He is the biggest embarrassment to them. I want people to realize Justin Trudeau, the embarrassment that is Justin Trudeau, that is what feminist masculinity looks like.
Mm-hmm. Beta! I'm sorry. Mike, do you have any jokes about Mr. Trudeau's words?
I can't even go any further than you guys have.
It's okay.
He's left me devoid of wit. He has that effect on people.
He's like a black hole, right? Yeah.
No, he's just a little bitch.
Yeah. That too.
Well, I don't want to downplay this. He's a hideous tyrant. And
Yeah.
when he
Yeah.
finally gets voted out of office, he's going to have to escape to a remote island because he's in so much trouble. The
Yeah.
shit he did to Canadians during the trucker protest,
Yes.
like they just danced around in the street in protest against this
It was the equivalent of
biochemical warfare thing.
Yeah.
That's why he declared the Canadian equivalent of martial law. Yeah, the emergencies thing that should only ever be done in the case of Canadians being invaded on their home territory, and he enacted this because people were complaining about the biochemical warfare thing. Like that, bro, you're going to jail until you die unless you escape to a remote island. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how I feel about capital punishment. I'm not sure how I feel about, murdering someone for any reason. But if there's anyone on this planet that deserves to be murdered by perhaps guillotine, which I believe I went through a couple of weeks ago, it's Justin Trudeau. Like, he's one of the world's most awful people. And I don't know how to explain that in any further detail. I don't know anyone who's expressed more open contempt for the people he's supposed to be serving than Justin Trudeau. His head should be cut off in public.
In Minecraft.
Like people should no in
this
not in real life.
Something that we literally cannot say on YouTube. And this is something that I'll point this out. That's not even a punishment because it's over when it's over. This is why the rant I went on about Fauci was the way it was.
That's a Lenny Kravitz
I know it's
song.
a Yogi Berra kind of statement, but it's true,
Yeah.
When you use execution on a person whose crimes occurred because of their ego and their greed, which is basically the left in general, basically the establishment in general. So, like progressive Republicans and progressive Democrats, progressives in Canada, progressives in Europe. They don't do this because they have these great humanist ideas like they like to pretend. They do it because they want to enrich themselves at your expense and they want to lord it over you. That's why they do it. They want to feel important and they want to be rich and they don't want you to get in the way. And so punishment for world leaders, national leaders that are not big enough to be considered world leaders, and so on, they really shouldn't die. They should be impoverished. They should be imprisoned. They should see everything they ever built that they're proud of and that they're considering, their legacy in the world torn down and shamed. They should see people spitting on the ground when they say their names. And they should struggle the way that they made other people struggle. And they should live through all of that, every minute of it, for the rest of their lives.
We should fart in their general direction.
No, we should
bring back the penalties.
we should make them deal with what they made us deal with. And the reason isn't to punish the individual, although the punishment will be there. The reason isn't revenge. The reason is because the next one that comes along and the one after that should see that They can't escape it through, well, they'll just execute me. That they will have to live out that life. That the risk they're taking is not death, but living in shame and poverty for the rest of their lives after being ousted. Becoming a joke to everyone forever while they have to watch it happen in front of them. It should be that scary to them. Because that's what they fear the most.
And let it be herein known, the Trudeau name will go down in history as one of the biggest cucks in history. Not just Justin, but his father.
Mm-hmm.
You fucked up your father's legacy, Trudeau. And Trudeau Sr. was, I mean, I don't even know.
No. That's not his father.
Well, no, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like his father's legacy is pretty bad. His actual, you can tell by the face. I mean, that's not his father. But I will say, maybe we should come up with our own way of dealing with it. From here on out, when you thought it was a fart, but there was a little poo in it, that's no longer a shark. It's a Trudeau.
It's a Trudeau. There you go.
Yep.
All right. Let's see. Maybe there was there is. There's a super chow from Richard Bier for $5. Thank you, Richard. And he says, I have it on good authority from the ad run by the governor of California that Alabama has established checkpoints to check women exiting the state to see if they are pregnant or not. Yes, that's Project 2025. It's real. It's coming. Be afraid. Be very afraid, ladies. Watch your goons. We're gonna be keeping tabs. All right. Anyway, we're gonna end the show here and go into the patron show and talk about this article of Trump getting paid by ABC because they accuse him of being a convicted sexual assault perpetrator. And this is an important win culturally for us, an important milestone, because ultimately what we want is a system of due process and fairness. And if Trump is winning this, then I think we will see more victories. Plus all these other things, like people coming forward with admissions. So yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see where it goes from there. But if you want to join us on that, you have to become a badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com/subscribe, and $5 a month will get you into the Discord where you'll be able to watch the additional content and also hang out with us, including myself, Hannah, Mike, Allison, and so many others. So hopefully we'll see you guys there. We have game nights, movie nights, and all kinds of fun stuff going on there. All right, so thanks guys for coming on the show. Thank you to Hannah and Mike for joining me. If you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today, and please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of HBR News, and we will see you next Tuesday. If I don't see you before then, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.